I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Tim Walz, EK, because we both love him. So are you in the pro Tim Walz camp?
Yeah, I'm very much in the pro Tim Walz camp. Like, I don't know if you've seen that meme going around where it's like the New York Democrats with the supermajority, or like the Clinton Democrats
Mhm.
and the Minnesota Democrats with the one seat majority, or like freaking Vladimir Lenin.
I haven't
Like,
seen that. No, that's great.
yeah, it's great. It's a great meme. It's like, I mean, it's it's the state of the country, really. But yeah, I love the dude. Like, I mean, he is that guy. Like JD Vance is like trying to be that guy, like who is that Trump supporter, and like he can't really do it. He can't really fake it. It's because that's like not who he is. But like he just shifts whatever. But like you look at Walton's like, yeah, this is that dude. Like this dude definitely was a social studies teacher that also, coached football, and is also just like a really cool, awesome dude that you would probably want to have a beer with, which apparently is a qualification for president of the United States and like not any of the other shit. But like the one of the more progressive people I love, like got kids, free breakfast and lunch, got people was it the paid family leave and paid sick leave and all that. Got like free college or free community college, like under 60K or something like that. So like, yeah, I love this dude. Like, please make somebody like this president. Like, and I like that it's not somebody in the center, somebody that's talking like about like super compromise, reach against or reach across the aisle, all that stuff. I think it's bullshit because like we always hear like, oh, the Republicans are gonna do this, they're gonna do that, they're gonna like put in their entire agenda, and like we have to do something to stop them. But then when it's Democrats running, it's like, oh, well, you got to work with those people. Like, how come we got to work with you when y'all are just going to run like full speed ahead, all gas, no brakes, right through every single wall? So, yeah, I love that we have somebody that is legitimately on some like real policies to help people out. And it's pretty charismatic when he's time for him to speak.
Yeah, I love that Republicans have been attacking him as this far left radical, mostly not because of really anything he's done, but because people like us like him. And so they're like, oh, well, if the far left dudes over on the left wing, I'm sure they're listening to the show, are pro Tim Walz, then he must be some crazy socialist. And it's like, no, no, he's not at all. If we had our choice, there would be someone else in that position. But we recognize that Tim Walz gets the things that liberal moderates claim to want done. And that's why we like him. Like the things that he has done that you just mentioned, things like giving universal free school lunch to children, things like paid paternal leave, things like free community college. These are all policies, they're obviously on the left of the spectrum, but I don't think any reasonable person would call them radical far left socialist policies. They're the policies that your average everyday liberal probably supports, but New York Democrats just don't get done, and he managed to do it. Not only did he manage to do it, but he managed to do it with a 1 vote majority, which you might as well just like slap Joe Biden across the face and be like, hey, this is what you could have done with the supermajority. I didn't have supermajority, but with the trifecta, instead of listening to the parliamentarian, you could have just gotten this shit done like Tim Walz did. And that's why we love him. Not because he's some far left socialist radical. That would be pretty freaking cool. But he's not that. TJ, what were your thoughts? I know we talked a lot about it yesterday, but what were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that what works really well about Tim Walz is that, like you guys say, he doesn't fit the mold of what people assume someone we like would appear as. And the the issue that we mentioned on yesterday's show was that a lot of times people on the left kind of speak in these, esoteric and academic terms. That's like your one type of lefty, like your annoying and obnoxious nerd. And then you have the, your agent provocateur, someone who's just out there. We need to burn everything down. We need to attack everything. And, we're quoting all of the rhetoric and all the stuff we have to study. And it doesn't really hit well with a lot of people if you don't speak like them. Like, say what you want about, people like George W. Bush. he spoke. People, it's funny that people made fun of George W. Bush for how stupid he was and comparing him to half the Republicans who are in office today. I mean, he sounds like Charles Xavier compared to these people. And it's just like, it's wild that it's fallen that far from George W. Bush. Now, I mean, not saying he's a good guy. I'm not one of those folks, but it is kind of weird. But Tim Walz goes against like the cynicism that is prevalent in our movement. And yesterday we were talking about you can't build a lot of progress if everybody is eternally cynical. And he was a military guy too, which it's funny comparing him to JD Vance, like you were. I think it was CK. I talked about how EK about JD Vance and how he's looking, and JD Vance is what. Tim Walz is what JD Vance wishes he was. And you can see that when he's attacking like his military record and stuff like that, saying, I answered the call to go to combat or whatever. And I'm not the type of person to disparage anyone's military service because, there's enough of that going around. But hey, JD Vance started it. JD Vance is a public affairs guy. He was in Iraq for 6 months, sitting at a desk, writing articles. And when I found out he was a PAO, a public affairs officer, that shocked me because I've never seen anyone worse at public affairs than fucking JD Vance. Like I couldn't believe he's had training in this shit and still as awful as he is. And the free lunch thing that's the flagship one that I point to with Tim Walz, because you're right, John. Your average person, Democrat or Republican, is going to see that and like, oh yeah, kids should get fed at school for free. Like, why should you burden the parents with this? The kids are already forced to be there. But Republicans can't help themselves. They cannot help but saying, look at this socialism. Next thing you know, there's going to be the killing fields of Cambodia, after this. And that's gonna weird out a lot of people. They're not going to appreciate that. And Midwest people are killing it. Because you know what? I actually confused Tim Walz with, I can't even think of the guy's name. Actually, I pulled it up. What was his? Tony Evers. Tony Evers is the governor of Wisconsin. And he does also have a slim majority that he was working with. And I remember he did something, I think last year, maybe the year before, where he extended the funding for, I can't remember what it was. It was something with schools. It may have been school lunch or something like that. But he used the line item veto. And for those of you who don't know, the line item veto is you can't do it at the federal level, but some states you allow you to take a bill and to just veto certain parts of the bill. And you don't got to send the entire thing back. What he did was veto individual letters. So it was like the bill said that like whatever was school lunch will be paid or free college will be paid up until, 2025, and he has cut out a whole bunch of letters and extended it for like 50 more years. I love that shit. Like, this is something Republicans would do. It's about time we start doing shit like this to make the world a better place. That's my opinion on it.
Okay, that one goes a little bit too far. Like I think that's cool. Right? That's cool, but I do think that shouldn't be a thing politicians are allowed to do.
But that since it is,
I played a Dungeons and Dragons game that had like a magical artifact that worked like that. We could change the letters of any spell, and it got utterly insane. And if we actually like governed the whole country where the president can just change the letters of any bill and put it into law, I don't think that will result in a better country. But I'm glad this guy did it in this case.
Hold on. So I agree that I think that, yeah, you shouldn't have the power to do it. But as long as you do, it's kind of your responsibility to make the world a better place here. So let me see if I can get this going. So, yeah, Wisconsin's governor bested the GOP and secured education funding for 400 years. Let me see. Tony Evers made key changes to the state budget passed by the Republican-controlled legislature, slashing GOP tax cuts, guaranteeing 402 years education. Evers made full use of this power when changing a phrase that increased funding from 2023 to 24 to 2023 to 24-25 school years by vetoing parts of that sentence on Wednesday. Evers signed the $99 billion budget, which will span the next 2 years into law. And then you can see what he took out. He took out these individual words and the numbers 2 and 0, and got 400 years of education funding.
That's hilarious.
Listen, because the Republicans play these stupid fucking games all the time to make the world worse. So as long as they're gonna, they would pull this bullshit to bring back child labor. So go for it. That's what I say. I don't know.
I mean, they've already done it with like abortion. Like I forget
exactly
which state it was, but there was a state that like just reinstituted an anti-abortion law that was put in place before women could vote. And they were just like, yeah, now that Roe's gone, this law is in effect. And it's like, bro, come on. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I will say another thing, like, for one, it's extremely hard to campaign against like giving children like free food for breakfast and lunch. Like, it's really hard to campaign like against feeding children that would otherwise starve. But like also these things, like once you give people a benefit, like, and they actually have benefited from it, like for a little bit, even if they don't use it to the full extent, it is extremely difficult to take that away. Like, even when the opposition gets in office, they're going to find that their own constituents that would traditionally turn out and vote for them and elect them for whatever weird politics they want to have, like, still want all the other benefits that they used to get, like Social Security, for example. People fought so hard against Social Security because they knew once that came into effect, it would be like prying teeth. It would be like pulling teeth. You would never get it back. Trump has done a good job of tricking his constituents into thinking that he's not going to try to take away their Social Security. But like, if you outright said, yeah, we're going to take away Social Security, no one would ever vote for you. All of those people traditionally turning out Republican would never vote for that Republican that just straight up said they were going to take away the Social Security. So like, pass the law, like do what you can, get rid of the damn filibuster and get people health care, or get people, some housing benefits, some child tax credits, feed people, make stuff like free or way less burdensome for people, give people the benefit, and then watch everybody else try to scramble to take it away. And it's not going to happen. It's going to be ingrained. Like when Trump was in office, he did everything he possibly could to get rid of Obamacare, and it's still here. And if you ask like a lot of the diehard Trump people, hey, what do you think about the Affordable Care Act? Or you just straight up say, what do you think about Obamacare? Like, they might begrudgingly say that, they wish there was something else, but they use it. They like it. They don't want it to go away. I remember years ago, I had a coworker who she had two insurance policies. She had the insurance policy from the job that we had, and she had a private insurance policy on top of that because she had like some chronic illnesses and stuff like that. And like eventually her policy for the job would cap out, and it was a good insurance policy, but like it would cap out how much it would pay. And then that's why she was paying for the second insurance policy to kick in and pay everything else on top of that. And like, because of the Affordable Care Act, that is not a thing anymore. That is a situation which cannot happen. Like, and people know that and understand that, and they don't want that to go away. So it's like, when you get these people campaigning against something that they're benefiting from, it is so hard to take that away. So give the people the damn benefits and run people that are actually going to try to get those benefits into people's hands. Like, for real, give people those benefits.
I'm glad you brought up Obamacare, because the thing that a lot of people forget about Obamacare is that the title, like the Obamacare, that name was an attack from Republicans. Republicans came up with the term Obamacare, using it to attack Obama, like, oh, Obama did this terrible thing, it's Obamacare. And then people liked it, and Obama was just like, yeah, fuck it, guys, it's Obamacare, thank you. And that's exactly what I see happening with Tim Walz. I saw a tweet from the GOP today, or it was yesterday, and it was this quote: "One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness." Tim Walz. And I was just like, that's a good thing, guys. I would like you to continue advertising that Tim Walz said one person's socialism is another person's neighborliness, because that made me like him a hell of a lot more. Like, it is the obvious attack when the Republicans try and say, oh yeah, socialism is feeding school children for free. It's like, no, that just seems like the basic human decent thing to do, is to make sure kids have food while they're at school. And when you just put it so plainly, we were talking about this yesterday, EK, when the attacks are so obviously incorrect on their face, they fall flat. When the lies have to be disproven by data and a pie chart, it's going to be very difficult to refute them. But when they're so ridiculous that it's so easy to see, oh, Kamala ain't black. No, bro, I can see right there. She's black. Like, I can see it. Like, you're wrong. You don't need to refute it. And then you can just go and make your point. And that is exactly the energy that Tim Walz is going to bring to this campaign. Kamala was already on that messaging train, and Tim Walz really just puts it into hyperdrive, because that's the entire identity of his politics.
Yeah. It's great to see. And what's great also about the Tim Walz thing is the choice was so great, because it could have been someone else. Like, we were not. It could have gone either way. That John and I have been talking about how things have been going a little too well. We'll get to a misstep eventually, but things were a little bit too well that we're just waiting for someone to drop the ball. And I was sure that, okay, they'll probably fuck up the vice president pick, and they didn't. And not only was he right as far as his policy and his affectation, whatever, he didn't miss a step when he was introduced to the nation. He comes out there, he does a JD Vance joke. He has all these statements that are folksy and relatable to people. And I don't know, it's going to go. I mean, he said he can't wait to debate JD Vance. I can't wait to see that either. That would be a fantastic. Did you see JD Vance walking up to Air Force Two? Did you guys see that video?
Oh my God, yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, it's no competition between those two, and we'll be looking at a Trump video later on in the episode.
He thought he looked cool, TJ. He thought
he
looked
did.
Cool.
He did.
It was really embarrassing, and he thought he looked cool.
Oh God, JD Vance has never been cool a day in his life. You can just tell. He's always been a fucking nerd, and he was a nerd who went to an Ivy League school after he got out of the military, got paid by these corporations to represent their interests, and then shit on his hometown. I just imagine JD Vance has no friends, and so he's finally in a spotlight now. But you can take the, I was going to say this, you can take the nerd out of the boy, but you can't. That doesn't work in this. But he's just a nerd. He just always will be, and he'll never be cool no matter how hard he tries. And I am here for it. I love to see it.
I'm glad you used that nerd term, TJ, because I want to make it clear, when TJ says nerd in this derogatory fashion, he doesn't mean like nerd like all three of us are nerds. EK's here is wearing a classic X-Men t-shirt. TJ's constantly got the Marvel shit in the back. I myself, I just brought up Dungeons and Dragons on this very stream. Like, we're all nerds. We own that we're nerds. We like that we're nerds. When we call JD Vance a nerd, it's derogatory because he thinks it's derogatory. He thinks being a nerd is bad. He thinks he looks so cool with his army of white dudes in suits walking up to Air Force Two like they're entitled to talk to the vice president of the United States because they're on the same tarmac. He thinks that's cool and nerds are losers, and that's what makes him a fucking nerd in a derogatory sense, which is exactly why the weird allegations don't work both ways like Republicans think they do. Because the things that when we say you're weird, they're like, yeah, well, you will have like blue hair and shit. It's like, yeah, we don't care that they have blue hair. Like they do that because they're comfortable having blue hair. You're weird and you don't want to be weird. They want to be weird that way. You don't want to be seen the way we see you. And that's why this attack works.
Agree. I like it. I wanted to tack on to that with the nerd and cool thing. Yeah, so yeah, I meant nerd as in not cool in that sense, that JD Vance wants to be this suave guy who walks in with a commanding presence, and he'll never have 1/10 the riz as Donald Trump. He can't get there. He doesn't have it with him. What was also great about him walking up to Air Force Two was that it was surrounded by all these reporters that were waiting to talk to Kamala Harris. And he thought the reporters would talk to him too, and they didn't. They just kind of looked at him. They just kind of stared at him, and he says, "Well, I figure since Vice President Harris, well, first he tried to make a joke. He's like, well, I thought I'd come visit my plane that I'll have pretty soon. It's not my plane yet, but anyway, I figure since Kamala Harris won't talk to you guys, that maybe you'd want to talk to me." It was like, whoo, boy, it was painful to watch, and I love the fact that we're going to see several more months of this cringe. I can't get enough of that. And
what if he'll just quit, TJ? I wonder if he'll get bullied enough that he just quits.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. One thing I wanted to add too, John, I gotta. When you talked about Obamacare, you're 100% right that they called it Obamacare to like saddle it on him and make fun of him. It's something they did before. Now you wouldn't remember this, but I don't know if you read about it. They did it to Hillary Clinton first. So back in the 90s,
really?
So back in the 90s, Hillary Clinton was championing this healthcare initiative. And she essentially had a program where she wanted every American who worked at like a large corporation, or maybe it was every American, you had like a health insurance card. And her plan was to provide government subsidies to these corporations to lower the cost of healthcare. And they called it Hillary Care. That was a big thing back in the 90s. They said that, we got this Hillary Care, and they crushed it. The Republicans just tanked it. And so Obamacare was their second run at that to try Hillary Care again. Ended up not working. I mean, in a way, it kind of worked because they still use it in a derogatory fashion, but Obamacare clearly helped people out. It still had a ton of problems, obviously, but it worked well enough for Obama to just, Obamacare, we kind of like it.
Because Obama's got the Riz and Hillary doesn't.
He does, yeah, the Riz. he had the Riz, Hillary didn't. That's true. And EK, so I grew up on Rush Limbaugh. I listened to Rush Limbaugh every single, but hence the Hillary Care thing. I remember how often he would say that back in the day, and he would say all the time, EK, what you just said, that he was afraid of, as a conservative, to give people something from the government because after you do it, it's very difficult to take back. He would say that all the time. So he's like, we have to hold the line on all this stuff so the government stops spending. And what I was thinking, the abortion one is the most clear example that once they overturned the abortion thing, the country started rising up on it. But an example where that didn't seem to work, well, maybe it is, the child tax credit. Because you remember, like, during COVID, I was stunned that they just because, like, how could you argue against this? Like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't give money to families with kids. Nah, fuck them. We're gonna take it away. It's like that. It's kind of surprised me that enough people stood up to vote that down, and even Democrats like Joe Manchin. You guys remember Joe Manchin saying that they're just gonna use this money to go. Oh wait, that was paid.
You're gonna go buy drugs or something.
Yeah, they'll go buy drugs or go hunting. And I was like, yeah, so what? Let them do it, man. Let them do it. What the fuck do you care? Yeah, but yeah, that's generally true. The child tax credit one, though, that surprised me. I can't believe that they because what's the argument against it? It's like the free school lunch. I don't know what you could possibly say.
It's just big government, man. Yeah,
I know.
It's just, yeah. If we can't all agree that if there's two things government should universally be favored to do is take care of children and build roads. Can we all just agree that those two things we need the government for? The rest of it we can debate about, but kids shouldn't go hungry, and we need roads. Those are the two things.
The people that vote against building the roads even brag about them building the roads after the stuff passes. And they're like, hey, guys, I got so much money for us to build these roads now. Like, you fucking voted against it, goddammit.
Well, no, they're stopping doing that now. Look at Florida. Florida's roads are crumbling from the storm that they refused FEMA money from because it was woke.
That's wild. I heard about, because usually, like what EK said happens, that they'll vote against them and then take it. But they took a principled stance to let their infrastructure fall apart. It's like, geez, like, once again, these people are dumber than George Bush Jr. And I saw something. So you guys saw Cori Bush lost her primary, and I think it was Ryan Grimm. He wrote something about this where he said that he thinks that this is a couple years ago that a few members of the squad made a mistake when they voted against the infrastructure bill because, like, out of principle, because it wasn't exactly what they wanted. and how that can come back to bite you because people can use it against you. I was like, I never really thought about it on that end. I always thought about it the way that people vote against it and then brag about it. But if you actually do vote against it on principle, it's like, no, that could come back to bite you. So it's a dangerous game, I guess, for Democrats. For Republicans, it doesn't really matter. But that's once again an unfair advantage that Republicans have in that area. Okay. Oh, it's comments here. Tim Walz is becoming America's dad. What do you guys think? I mean, we need a new one. Bill Cosby kind of fell from grace a few years ago, so the position's open. I don't see why not. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I love the dad comparisons. I think they're spot on. He has just very dad energy. You can just see him in New Balances. Like it fits. And he's the good dad that we want to have, not the dad that watches Fox News all day and talks about the immigrants. But I think that's great branding.
Yeah, like even like the clips of him with his daughter and stuff, like at the fair and stuff like that. Those are really cool. And then the story of his daughter, you guys hear that one?
No,
the story of her.
Yeah, he tried to have children with his wife for like forever and ever, and like they had to have multiple IVF sessions, and basically all they had was hope, and then she got pregnant, so they named this kid Hope.
It's beautiful. It's like they designed a candidate to go against the anti-IVF Republicans in a lab.
Yeah. They planned it. They planned it like 20 years in advance before it happened. Yeah, that is great because it's
Jesuit.
So right, yeah, it's like when you have a Republican Party, like people openly saying we're coming after IVF. I mean, it's great to have that story or something like that. It's the anti-abortion one. And how do you feel about Walz being a Zionist? I haven't actually heard. I'm not shocked to hear that, but I hadn't heard him make any statements. Have you guys heard what he said about Zion? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was, but I haven't heard it.
There's something that happened recently. Like I heard about it either today or yesterday, where there were some Palestinian families that were supposed to go and talk to him, and he declined the meeting because like he was all right with meeting with them and everything. And they're alleging that when he found out that they weren't basically just going to be there to trauma dump on him, but that they were actually there because they wanted to talk about divestment and what actions he will actually do. Like his team basically canceled the meeting on them, which is a shame. Like it was something I was going to bring up as well, because I mean this has been going on for so long. 9 months now? I think we're at 9-10 months, something like that. Yeah, and like Palestinians need your sympathy. They need you to listen to them. They need a lot of stuff, but like they need your action more than anything else. So with that, it is kind of disappointing. I wouldn't push him into the Zionist category. A Zionist wouldn't have taken the meeting. Wouldn't have let the trauma dump even happen. Like I think for right now, especially, everything that I used to say about back when Biden was running about Biden is still true now. Like it's not a purity test to try to force concessions from the people who are trying to get your vote. After all, they have to earn your vote. I think, the party has taken a great step with, going with Kamala. I think she's a much better candidate than Biden would have been or ever would have been. I think Walz is an excellent VP choice, but still you got to stay on them. You got to make sure shit like this doesn't happen. And the Palestinians deserve people that will actually do something more than lip service.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Asaraptus, definitely stick around because our fourth topic is very closely related to that. So if you have the patience to stick around until our last topic here, we will definitely be going in depth about that particular point. But for now, guys, thank you very much for being here, getting to the end of this episode. If you were live with us instead of watching it afterwards, you might have been able to actually make a comment and got us to talk about it. So definitely join us live next time. That is after you like and subscribe this video. If you liked our guest, Ike, how about you tell our audience where they can find you?
Okay, so you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at what good. Dear God, I'm so bad at plugging
Your
myself.
own name, EK.
What's good English? What's good English? YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I think it's like here-ish, but I
Yep.
can't.
It
Yeah.
kind of is. The what's is there.
Yeah. I will say, "What's good English" is a very funny word to trip over. That's a term to trip over. That's pretty good. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate everything. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and all that. Just so you know, if you plan on protesting Vice President Harris anytime soon, be sure to send your potential protest to EK and clear it with him first. That way, he's not going to roast the fuck out of you in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So appreciate it, folks. Catch you next time.
That was good. That was good.